On today's show, the San Diego Padres, are they back, completing a historic comeback against the Chicago Cubs, an 8-run comeback, in fact. Lots to talk about, lots of good moments. Can the Padres build off of this? What were the most underrated moments of the entire comeback? And a whole lot more. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Padres, your daily San Diego Padres podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Padres podcast, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for Tuesday, April 9th, and what an April 9th it is. As always, I'm your host with sometimes, occasionally, but certainly not always the most, Javier Reyes. You can follow me on Twitter at Javipeno, Javiiipeno, or at LO_Padres, or Locked On Padres on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts from. We are your first listen every day here, Locked On Padres. Apologies for a little bit of a delay. It was very late, and I didn't have the chance to record. I am on the East Coast after all. Oh, but did I stay up? Oh, yeah, I did. Oh, yeah, I did, ladies and gentlemen. And it is fantastic. Also, go check out my other podcast, Baseball versus the World, if you want more fun baseball culture topics. New episode is out today with baseball origins in New York. It's kind of like a interview, fun podcast with an author. His name's, hold on. I blanked for a second. Kevin Baker. There we go. I literally have his book like right here. So shouts to that. Go check that out. But man, today's episode is going to be a fun one, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be having fun. It is almost as if, for anyone who might have missed it, Monday's episode, when I think I was the most animated and upset that I had been definitely since last year, but in a long time, right? Like that was genuinely like one of the most frustrating experience like weekends that I'd have covering with the Padres for a decent amount of time, I think. And it's almost as if last night was the universe telling me to calm down. You know what I mean? Last night, the Padres, if you didn't hear, for some reason, completing an 8-0 comeback to win the game 9-8. And it was a total team effort. We got to talk about it. We got to talk about every single aspect of it because it was truly just the most incredible thing we'd seen. Like from the Padres in what feels like a very long time. Very, very, very long time. And it was fantastic. It was fantastic, ladies and gentlemen. Today's episode, though, is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Go check that out. Let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to start off with some of the sadness, ladies and gentlemen. That is Yu Darvish, who had been the best pitcher basically for the Padres this year, only goes 3 innings, gives up 4 earned runs on 4 hits, walks 3, strikes out 4, leaves the game. They kind of take him out early and they bring in Pedro Avila, who makes it not much better, although 4 earned runs across 3 innings from a guy that we weren't expecting too much from. Avila has had some moments. He has shown that he's been better in the bullpen as a long inning reliever rather than as a starter or even in like high leverage stuff, but he gives up more runs. And the Cubs just kill them to start. Ian Happ, Cody Bellinger. Cody Bellinger has a bunch of RBIs in this game. Dansby Swanson hits the triple that feels like it all but fully kills the Padres, like completely. And that's what happens. It is one of those things where you kind of, how do I put this? You were at this point with the Padres where it's just so easy to be like, yeah, man, but like it's early and we'll make a comeback. And it's like, yeah, but some of the data and all these things, and you struggle. You know what I mean? You struggle looking at just how absolutely ridiculous it is that this team with all this talent just can't seem to come through, like every time. And then, what can I say? What can I say? We have the absolute opposite of such a thing occur, and what can I say? The Padres make the comeback, and it is absolutely amazing. And I think that while Darvish having a bad start was one of the things I've talked about in this podcast is just how it's frustrating when the team, how do I put this? They have these moments where, like if a player has been on for a while, that'll be the new player to blow up, right? This has happened with Cosgrove this year. This has happened with Enel De Los Santos. It happened with Yu Darvish last night. It just seems like it's next man up, but in the other direction. You know what I mean? That's one of the things that's so frustrating about the Padres lately is that every time something is going good, something else goes horribly wrong, right? That just seems to be the case for this team right now. And it's super frustrating, but Where do I even start, folks? Where do I even start? And again, it really feels like I'm being punished for my episode yesterday that I did ranting about the Padres. It really does. And it's also a staunch reminder that you never quit a game early. Like, if you're going to watch a game, don't leave it early. So anyone who left at Petco, if there was anyone that left, I feel very sorry for you, but also not at the same time, because we should have known this if anyone who remembers back with the Miami Heat and the NBA Finals back in the day, when there's like that, literally that famous video of the Heat fans leaving and the security guards still seeing them. And then they tried to get back in and they're like, no. And I'm like, those people are even worse, because it's like, that's an NBA Finals game. Why aren't you staying? Just to stay? Like, it's the NBA Finals. Those tickets must cost a fortune. So that's like a very privileged, dumb thing for them to do. Never leave a game early. And if you're just watching a game, even if it means, oh, okay, like they're getting their butts kicked, maybe I'll put some focus on some other stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I'm putting on, maybe like some extra work I have to do is in the background, and I'm focusing on that, and I'm still watching and whatnot. And then you have the comeback, and that's exactly why. This is why you can't give up on like any individual game ever for any sport, because you simply do not know what's going to happen, right? Like, you simply never know what's going to happen. And wow, just absolute wow. This is the type of win, folks, and this is kind of obvious in a lot of ways, but even still, this is the type of comeback that could spark a lot more things. If the Padres end up being good this year, which I still have a lot of issues with the team that we're going to get into, I still have some things that freak me out, right? Like, I'm not super confident in a lot of ways about this team to potentially get better. But even still, for you to have a comeback like this, it means a lot. And it's the type of thing that going forward, it would not surprise me if we look back and say, wow, this is the moment when the entire thing flipped and we said, wow, the Padres are back, and they just, God dang it. Guys, I'm like losing my mind over all this. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing that they were able to do this, and I'm excited to dive deeper into it. But Jay Cronenworth, who I want to talk about first, I've been talking about on this podcast that Cronenworth has been one of the better players for the entire team this year. And that's one of the things that's been frustrating, is that, you have Jackson Merrill. He's come up and be really solid already. Luis Campusano is better than Austin Nola. Jerkson Profar is contributing in a lot of ways. And then you have Jay Cronenworth, who looks fully back. He's hitting the ball harder than he ever has. He's making better contact. Yeah, he hasn't drawn as many walks as we're used to with him, but I'm not as concerned about that. I've always known he's had a good eye at the plate, even when he wasn't performing. And in this game, I think has the most underrated at-bat of the entire game. I really do believe that. And what I'm talking about, of course, is the one that starts the whole thing in the bottom of the sixth inning. Fouling off pitch after pitch. I'm trying to bring up and find on Baseball Savant the at-bat that he has. I can't find it for whatever reason. I just can't seem to find the Jay Cronenworth at-bat against Javier Assad. Let's see here. I see it now. It was a 10 pitch at-bat. And it was foul ball after foul ball after foul ball, then a ball on the changeup, then a sinker that he fouled off. He fouled off 5 pitches. 5 pitches. Right? Like, he absolutely went off, and then he hits the final one into the bleachers. Exit velocity of 107.6 miles per hour. Expected batting average of 970. Just an absolute nuke job from Jay Cronenworth. The third hardest hit ball of the day. A home run 30 out of 30 ballparks. And that's what's crazy, right? Only the third hardest hit ball of the day. But Cronenworth has a pretty solid game overall. But that was the big one. He draws 2 walks in this one, and then the one big hit, the home run, that he absolutely smashes. Again, he has been really good, and I think that this is legit. I know that last year, followers of this podcast will remember that I was starting to believe in the Trent Grisham bounce back that he was having at the beginning. This is not like that. That was like, oh, cool. He might be an average offensive player. This is like, I think this guy might be a plus to the degree of what he was back in the day in 2021 and 2022. That's what it feels like, especially 2021. Yes, that's how high I am on this guy. For you to foul off a bunch of pitches and for one of them to be just foul. Like, you know how, like, not degrading, but like how depressing that is to just see like you had the pitch and it goes foul, and then for you to have a long at bat after that, fouling off pitch after pitch. It is not going to be talked about nearly as much as Tatis, which we will talk about in a second, or maybe frankly even the Bogaerts home run, but it should be talked about because that's the type of at bat you need, and he's been doing it all year, even when he's been getting unlucky. And that's the big thing with Cronenworth. He's had a lot of balls in play. I talked about this with the Cardinals series. He had one ball that kind of ended the game and killed the rally when it was a double play. Expected batting average of 490. I believe it was the third hardest hit ball of that day. And then the game after, he had the second and third hardest hit balls of the day that also weren't hits. And he's still hitting. You know what I mean? So he's had such a great season, and he's also had a couple of unlucky moments to confirm what he's slashing right now. 313, 382, 500 slash line. He's got, is it 2 home runs? Just 1 home run. He has 4 walks against 9 strikeouts. He's been ripping doubles. He's got 4 on the year. He looks awesome, fully legit. There are some players in this team that actually contributed to the comeback last night that I still have some questions on, but I really, man, like, he looks right. And that's one of the most exciting things about this Padres season so far. But I'm getting a little bit carried away. We got to take a second, folks, to do a little bit of an ad break. And we got to talk about none other than what helped me attend a baseball game yesterday. That's right. I went to the Yankees game because it was at 6 o'clock, and I just went with a friend of mine. And then I got right home. I was watching the game on the train, and yeah, that's the funniest part. I missed nothing at the beginning of the train. But even still, Gametime got me those tickets, and they get you tickets for anything, not just sports, not just baseball. They've got you for comedy, theater, everything. They just kill it. Concert tickets. They're absolutely killing it over at Gametime, folks. They have priority last-minute deals. They have flash deals. They had zone deals, all in pricing. Seat views for all the visual learners out there. The lowest price is guaranteed. Gametime ticket coverage, which means your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the industry. Gametime will credit you with 100%, 110% of the difference if you find a better seat in your area. So, Gametime's awesome. It's really fantastic. So go check that out, folks. It is a phenomenal app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets, because sometimes, you're busy. You don't want to assume that you can go through, hey, let's go on May 28th. Oh, I have work now. Well, don't worry. They take the guesswork out of buying tickets. For a limited time, all users can get $20 off any MLB purchase of $150 or more in the Gametime app, and with code FIRSTPITCH. Terms apply. That's code FIRSTPITCH, FIRSTPITCH, for $20 off from March 25th to April 14th only. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed with Gametime. And just like that, we are back, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Locked On Padres podcast. And yeah, you like that little transition graphic? That was pretty cool, right? We are talking all comeback today. We're having a good day, because we had a very bad day on yesterday's show. Of course, thank you for making us your first listen every day. Check out the YouTube. We're 10 subscribers away from 1,500. I don't know if I'm going to do anything special for it just yet, but rocking the Padres hoodie for those who want to see it, the one that I've been declaring for. And yes, Pac-Man is still here because he's yellow, and I haven't decided if I'll replace him yet, even if we lost Michael Wacha. But, folks, of course that wasn't it. The rest of that inning is beautiful. It is, I believe there was at one point when they had like 3 hits on just 4 pitches. Like, the Padres just kept swinging. And is there some luck with that, where it's like, how many times have we seen this team get way too aggressive, not be very situationally aware with hitting, and just swinging at pitches that are immediate groundouts or immediate pop-ups, whatever, infield fly balls, all that stuff. We've seen that a lot. But this game, it just doesn't go that way. Right? It just doesn't go that way. First, Manny Machado reaches on an error from Dansby Swanson. I actually thought that they were going to call that a hit. He smokes it, but even still, Dansby Swanson isn't able to pick it up. I did not realize until literally just now that they called that. How hard did he hit that, by the way? Let me see. I can't really see it. But, yeah, how hard did Manny Machado hit that ball? I thought he absolutely smashed it. 96.8 miles per hour. It had a 600 expected batting average, so it wasn't like fully lucky. But okay, Dansby Swanson is like one of the premier defenders at shortstop. Like, he's really, really good there. So I get it. It's a little bit of luck there, but even still, Jerkson Profar, he gets a single. By the way, 2 for 3 on the night with a walk. I don't think it's going to continue. His weighted on base and expected weighted on base is is a little bit off, it suggests he's getting a little bit lucky. But for a player like Profar, I don't really care. Like, you're not supposed to be a big, huge contributor for this team. And again, I don't know what it is. Someone needs to like reach out and figure out why Jurickson Profar likes playing with the Padres. Nobody likes playing with the Padres based on like, especially batters over the past few years. Like, everyone gets worse or they stay the same when they get here. Except Jurickson Profar, he becomes like a legitimate contributor and like this team's fun. You know, like how the Dodgers have Chris Taylor, who's like not nearly as good as the rest of their players, but like he's randomly like kind of inspires comebacks for them sometimes. Kind of like our version of that. Like, I don't know what it is, except the difference is that Profar has literally gone to other teams and then not been as good. Last year, he was good for -2 F4. And this year, just to check, I think he's probably already good for like, what, 0.3? Probably something like that, right? I'm going to look that up real quick. On the season, Jurickson Profar, 157 WRC plus 0.4 F4. Literally already better than he was last year. And he's got 1 home run, the grand slam from Saturday to boot. So that's really nice. But Profar then gets on base because, of course, he does. And then you get a Ha-Seong Kim triple. He's been struggling. I think he's going to get a little bit better. But it wouldn't surprise me if he regresses a little bit offensively. A lot of his stuff was like pulled fly balls last year. And, you know, he didn't hit the ball particularly hard, which is fine for a player like him. He's more of a contact-oriented hitter who can occasionally pull a ball, especially at Petco, to that left field side of the field. So still, don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm freaking out because his big thing is utilitarianism and, wow, why did I say it like that? Utility and, you know, amazing defense. That's basically his thing. But regardless, he hits the triple. Luis Campusano, the Hive, almost gets deaded here. He gets a ground out, but Ha-Seong Kim is able to score. And those are the type of things that the Padres have been missing. Productive outs, right? Having a long at-bat. Having at-bats where you at least make the team field things. Instead, it's so often that guys come up, and it happens in this game, by the way. I actually tweet at one point where I was like, at one point in this game, Luis Campusano hits a single with Jurickson Profar on second base, and then they hold up Profar. I don't want to say I know for sure that Profar would have made it home, but he's a decently fast guy. And it's just, more importantly, they keep him at third. It's first and third. And what happens? You get 2 straight strikeouts, one from Jackson Merrill, one from Tyler Wade. Like, they don't have productive at-bats, and that's what's so frustrating. So even there, I was like really excited. I know, it sounds like I'm like covering for Campusano a little bit because I did bring up on yesterday's show, low-key, really bad in high-leverage situations in his career so far. He's got like a 52 WRC plus compared to the plus 100 and above that he has in regular situations, so that's concerning. But regardless, then Jackson Merrill gets a single. Eggy Rosario strikes out. Yeah, the Eggy Rosario thing, don't get me wrong, I don't like that Tyler Wade, and frankly, I think that the Tyler Wade like little flash in the pan is ending. He's now batting .250 on the season. He basically just had those couple good games to start, one against the Giants and a couple against the Dodgers. I think we're almost done with him, this moment of his. But Eggy Rosario, I do feel bad that he doesn't get more consistent playing time. I especially also feel bad that Graham Pauley also isn't getting consistent playing time. Maybe that is going to change with Tyler Wade finally like kind of coming back down to earth, which is what was expected. It's not like he was hitting the ball. We didn't see any changes in his approach or anything like that to suggest that this was like a diamond in the rough that the Padres had found that no one other team had figured out. So I hope they play more. That being said, Eggy Rosario, man, like really just not coming through a lot for this team so far, which would help. But again, I feel bad because it reminds me of the Luis Campusano situation, like from years ago where they're pinch hitting him against Kenley Jansen. They're only, one game every 6 days. And then if he has a good game, he sits. And then if he has a bad game, we send him down. Right. So I get that. So Eggy Rosario, I wish there was just a little bit more consistency with the plate appearances. I wish we could do him against lefties and then Graham Pauley against righties. That's what I really want. And maybe with Tyler Wade starting to slowly regress. And if he does well, he does well. But I don't think it's going to last. Hopefully they'll play more. But it doesn't matter after that strikeout because then Xander Bogaerts hits, believe it or not, a ball even harder hit than Jake Cronenworth. Didn't have the same like expected batting average and all that. It was a home run in 17 out of 30 ballparks. But him getting in on the action, this was a total team effort, man. Everyone contributes in this game. The Jake Cronenworth, even if Cronenworth hadn't hit that home run, it was such a long at bat and it was such a fight. They showed so much fight last night that you hadn't seen them have in so long. That was impressive. And Xander Bogaerts, he needed that, right? He only had one extra base hit on the year. I was really critical of him, all the soft contact that he's been making. I'm still concerned about him. This doesn't change that, but it was really, really cool. You know what I mean? It was still really, really cool that he hit it. And I imagine he'll be a little bit better than what he's been lately, but I am still worried that the hard hit stuff and maybe the wrist injury and all that stuff is contributing. And the fact that he's been a little bit at second base. Hopefully that'll get better as time goes along. I actually think that the Padres deserve a lot of blame if he's not a good defensive player, because doesn't have the best arm strength, but he was okay at shortstop last year. And for you not to like make it clear you were moving him to second base, I think that's because they were trying to trade Kim, so they didn't know. Like they didn't give him enough time potentially to practice, so there'll be growing pains there. I'm still worried about him, but still home run from him. And then in the next inning, what felt like, okay, that was cute, but we're going to tease you like we always do, right? That's just what it felt like was happening here, because with runners on first and second, just to confirm who made it, it was Jake Cronenworth, Machado flies out. We could get to him later. And then Jerickson Profar draws the walk. Hector Neris comes in, and Ha-Seong Kim lines out, and Luis Campusano hits into a fielder's choice, which again is the issue with the Padres clutch thing, but it wasn't on them this time. Instead, it was like, does the universe hate us? Because the expected batting average on both of those balls, first from Ha-Seong Kim, was 740, 104.5 miles per hour off the bat. It was the fifth hardest hit ball of the day. That ends up not being a hit. Right, so really, really unfortunate there. And Luis Campusano's hit was a grounder with a 500 expected batting average. So it was almost like, hey, guys, that was cute. You had a nice little comeback here. This is nice and whatnot, but welcome back to reality. You guys are still cursed. That's what that inning felt like. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, as you all may know, that is not what ended up happening. And we're going to get into that in just a second, folks. We're going to conclude this celebratory fun podcast to make up for the very sadness that was yesterday, ladies and gentlemen. But before we do that, I just want to take a second to talk to you about Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports app in America, folks. With more than 3 million members, it is the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite players. You can just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. So whoever you want. You want to pick more on Tatis? You think that Bogaerts is getting it going? You think that Machado has to eventually get it going? You big on Jackson Merrill? I mean, he had a 4-hit game not too long ago, so you could do stuff like that. Or pick on pitching. It should be, hold on, who's our next pitcher? It's Darvish, so it should be Musgrove tonight. That should be a lot of fun. Maybe we could pick out strikeouts on him. Who knows? I mean, that guy usually shows up big. And tonight's going to be a big game, so maybe he's going to show up. But folks, they have all sorts of stuff going on. The NBA playoffs are beginning soon, April 20th, in fact, and the play-in rounds are April 16th, 17th, and 19th. So be sure to check that out as well. Something for every sports fan, from baseball and basketball to League of Legends and everything in between. LeBron, Shohei Ohtani, Connor McDavid, Fernando Tatis Jr., you know what I mean? You can pick everybody, folks. And it's really great. And just for example, also, they have injury insurance. For baseball games, if you have a player who registers 2 plate appearances or less, Prize Picks will have your back and not count that as a loss. So they have you covered if something freakish happens, so don't worry about that. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes it the #1 fantasy sports app daily. Download the app and use code LOCKDOWNMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. As you know, guys, I don't leave you hanging. Come on. You know I'm going to give you a nice little bonus. There you go. Up to $100. Remember, that is code LOCKEDONMLB. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with Prize Picks. And just like that, we are back, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Locked On Padres podcast, getting into what everyone's waiting for. And it is the Tatis, folks. It starts off with Graham Pauley pinch hitting for Eggy Rosario. Doesn't do anything, but Jackson Merrill does draw a walk. And again, Jackson Merrill, I've been more impressed with him than like a Xander Bogaerts, frankly. And I know that the batting average isn't always there, but for me, Merrill, I mean, the batting average is there now, but it wasn't early on. Even early on, I mean, he's had a 4-hit game. He has a really bad at bat that I actually texted a friend of mine, being like, this dude like has such amazing bat to ball skills. Like, he'll swing at pitches that he just shouldn't be swinging at, low and inside sinkers, you know what I mean, that he still manages to foul off, and then he swings and misses on a low inside horrible pitch, right? So that's what happened. But even still, it looks like even when he doesn't get the pitches right, even when he doesn't see exactly what's coming to the plate, maybe he doesn't make the best contact in the world, but he's fouling pitches off. This is not CJ Abrams. And I'm not just saying that because he's hitting 324. Like, there's measurable data to be like, he's hitting the ball pretty decently hard so far. You know what I'm saying? Like, this has actually been really, really impressive. And CJ Abrams, who I think is going to be good, he's actually had a good start for the Nationals so far. Don't get me wrong, I'm not hating on CJ Abrams, but Abrams, I think, was clearly not ready. It really feels like Jackson Merrill, at the very minimum, is ready. And don't get me wrong, he is chasing pitches, but at least he's making contact. He's in the 9th percentile for chase rate, which is bad, but he's not whiffing. 90 percentile in whiff rate. Like, that to me is a sign of like, all right, he's still acclimating to Major League pitching. You know what I'm saying? He's still getting used to that stuff, and he's hitting the ball pretty hard. Go look at his savant profile. The defense has been fine. I haven't seen good or bad, frankly, with the defense, but he's looked okay out there, which is most important, which is why teams love drafting shortstops, because they're the best athletes and you can put the ball over if you need to. So shouts to him. Amazing game for him as well. 1 for 3 in this one, scoring 2 runs with a walk and a strikeout. He looks so good, and this is why you don't give up your golden egg prospects. That's just why, like, in this league that we're in right now, you don't give up guys like this, and I hope they do not for whatever reason, because Merrill looks awesome, and more importantly, more specifically, I'm happy that it's not just that they were desperate and said, we got to bring this guy up, he's the only upside guy we have. It might have been that too, but it also might be he's legitimately ready, and Merrill deserves a lot of credit. But of course, let's stop beating around the bush. Fernando Tatis Jr., oh my God, a pimp job, dare I say. And what's even funnier is it wasn't even the hardest hit ball. It was even like the top 8. But still, 580 expected batting average, 27 out of 30 ballparks. Hits an absolute nuke. Don goes nuts. I had the game playing on my phone. And it was just really late, and I just, for some reason, I put on some music to like chill out and whatnot. And then I like threw my headphones off right when I saw the contact, and I saw him put his hands in the air and all that stuff, and it goes out of the park. And Tatis has a moment that felt like a little tiny bit close to the MLB The Show cover photo with the bat flip, except it wasn't like the whole like him looking, deadpanned towards the bench. Instead, he was just like losing it, and the energy was there. Merrill greeting him when he gets back, super hyped, does a cool little, that like weird like high and then low type of hand, whatever it is, high five, I guess you could call it. I sound like a narc trying to describe this stuff, but that's what happens there. You see Manny there, he's pumped. Like, it was great. And Tatis, there is no one better at seizing the moment in the sport. I really do believe that. Even Ohtani's obviously like the only other player that I think at the peak of their powers can be just as exciting as Tatis, if not more. Let's just be honest here. But other than him, no one seizes this thing better. Right? Juan Soto's doing pretty good with the Yankees. I'll tell you, I was at the game and he signed a ball in the middle of the game. That guy knows what he's doing. He's ingratiating himself with Yankees fans. Rooting for him, especially because he's in the American League. We don't have to deal with him anymore. But just amazing stuff. A nice at bat. You just love to see it. You love to see it. And it should also, just like Jay Cronenworth's at bat, it should not be forgotten that Robert Suarez comes into this game and looks fantastic. 1 inning, no walks, no hits. Looks awesome. The scouting reports on all of his stuff. All 14 of the fastballs. All 14 of the pitches were fastballs, which graded out exceptionally well thanks to his elite velocity. This is coming from Thomas Nastico at TJ Stats. 19 inches of vertical break. 19. That would have been nuts. I don't know why I said that. Exceptionally well thanks to its elite velocity at 19 inches. This is the thing with Suarez, and one of the things that I like about him is, again, it was still a 1-run game. So this is big time. Like, it's really great to see him get the save here. The thing with Suarez is that last year, his strikeout rate went so down that my thing was there's got to be a middle ground, because there's a reason why they paid this guy. And he showed up and he was fantastic. Just what a night. And what a night for the 20th anniversary of Petco Park, which I didn't know until like middle of the game, I think. I might have seen a tweet that was like, wow, classic Padres, 20th anniversary of the stadium, and they just go down like, like a wet towel, like wet blanket type of performance from them. But instead, that is not what happens, of course. The Tatis home run was thrilling. I just you have to wonder now, like, what's next? Can they build on this? I don't know, because there's 2 things I want to say. One, this does feel like more fight in one game that they had all of last year behind Bob Melvin, But I don't want to blame Bob Melvin necessarily because they were like this all of 2021 too. The second half, I should say. An amazing comeback. Can they build on it? Last year, though, remember the Mexico City series? The Padres, offense had been really, really poor up until that point, and then they hit absolute like mammoth bombs. In fairness, though, it was a ballpark very much conducive to hitting. Clearly, the Mexico City series, but even still, you wondered: is this like just the optics of it? Seeing all these balls, getting and scoring all these runs, just mentally, will it have them back into it? Will it be looked back on as the thing that starts the season? Very much, obviously, evidently, it did not. Does this game do that for them? Potentially. It's the largest comeback that they've had in a long time. The only one that they had last year that I can remember, and I have their like baseball reference page in front of me. They only had 2 walk-off wins last year, 12 walk-off losses, right? Like they didn't really have that many comebacks. They didn't have too many games where they just made like a giant, 8. Let me see here. Last on farthest behind? No, I'm trying to find it on baseball's reference, but can't really see it. But even still, the only other game that they had a comeback that felt like they really fought was a little bit, to an extent, was the David Dahl game, for those who might forget. It was early on in the season. David Dahl hits the game-tying home run. Unfortunately, goes to the IL after that. After actually getting hurt. So that was kind of his one and only, but it was a one-hit wonder for David Dahl. And then Ha-Seong Kim walks it off right after. I believe it was a game against the D-backs. So that was really cool. But other than that, just really no fight, like in a lot of ways. And this one game, everyone, from Jackson Merrill having bloop hits and drawing walks, to Jake Cronenworth fouling off pitches, and after one of the balls going foul, that it looked like it was gone, then hitting an absolute boom shot, and he looked so back. I don't know fully what they did, but he's barreling the ball. Guys, I think Jake Cronenworth's back, and that changes everything. One of the things I talked about before the season is because he doesn't get as much defensive value at first base, the best case scenario for him is like Ty France of the Mariners, right? I'm not saying Ty France currently, but Ty France had those 2 years where he hit like 15 to 16 home runs or so. I don't remember exactly how many, but like was just an amazing bat to ball guy, drawed walks. Maybe that's what we can hope for from Jake Cronenworth. And clearly, by the way, evidence for why they should try and salvage him, right? That was my thing all off seasons. I wanted to move him off of first base, but my thing was, hey, look, like if you can get him back to what he was before, then folks, like we're in business. And don't get me wrong, some of the things are a little bit high. He's got a 359 BABIP. I get it. But even still, like I think that he's been really, really good. He's got a 387 weighted on base. Expected weighted on base is actually higher. 428 is expected weighted on base. And that's just one stat. It's just one stat. But it suggests he's not getting super lucky because he's hitting the crap out of the ball. You have that. You have the Tatis, obviously, putting ahead. You have even Machado getting a single. You have the Ha-Seong Kim triple. The Luis Campusano ground out. If he just strikes out there, right? If he strikes out there or if it's an infield fly ball, maybe that doesn't happen, right? But at least you allowed the one run to score. Xander Bogaerts getting in on the game. Robert Suarez, who knows if he blows the game. Like every single player contributed. This was not just they were down by 3 heading into the 9th, Tatis had a home run. No, it was like the full process, and that was what was so great. And that's why you saw this vibe of everybody running around. And in fact, it was the 3rd largest comeback in the history of the San Diego Padres franchise, if I'm not mistaken. It tied the largest comeback. This one, according to Sarah Lang's, largest comeback win in Padres history, joining July 8th, 2021, the Daniel Camarena game. Everybody remembers that. Camarena! It's unbelievable! Shouts to Don, who of course killed it on the calls last night. I will say, I don't think he knew that the Bogaerts thing was a home run. It didn't look like it like initially, and Bogaerts has this thing where his swing doesn't always look like he hits it hard, even though his ball was hit harder than like the Tatis hit and even the Jake Cronenworth hit, but it doesn't always look like that, so I get it. Just visually. And he maybe was a little bit behind on that one, but he's like, oh, it's gone. That was great. Joining the Nationals comeback from July in 2021. And then, check this out. June 10th, 1974 against the against the Pirates. And then May 23rd, 1970 against the Giants. Those are the only other greater comebacks in Padres history. That's nuts. And that just gives you an idea of how historic last night was. And it was great. Will they build off on it? I hope so. Joe Musgrove, I am really confident that he can come out in tonight's game. This guy always shows up for big games, and this kind of feels like a big game. You want to see something from his team, especially because they play the Dodgers this weekend, right? I also do want to throw out there, Yes, the Padres are now second. I want to throw it out there that like the D-backs haven't played that great. Neither have necessarily the Giants. And the D-backs have played a lot of like weak teams, I believe, to start. Yes, they played the Yankees, and yes, they got swept by the Braves, but they also beat the Rockies, and that's kind of it so far. So they're having some trouble too. So maybe keep in mind that the Padres have played better teams so far, right? Like they played the Cardinals, they played the Giants twice, they've had to play the Dodgers for 2 games. That's worth bringing up a little bit early on. Now, strength of schedule isn't really a thing in my opinion for baseball. It's only a thing when you're looking at like the last month of a season, maybe. I don't really think it matters. You just got to win games. This isn't like football, right? This isn't like football where like the strength of schedule seems to really matter a lot more. Just incredible stuff. Incredible stuff. And man, there's some other things that we're going to talk about for tomorrow's episode, as well as recapping the game. I've got a question from old buddy Ramamurti on the Padres lineup order, because that's a fair question. I think that's one of the biggest things people are going to be asking now is, you know, with Tyler Wade slowing down, with some of these guys that are heating up, why is Merrill hitting like 9th? You know what I mean? Now, I think it's because of I think they want to have like lefty, then go to their righties. I think that's what it is. I think they just want to have not just back-to-back righties. Maybe that's what Schilt's trying to figure out, but I've been talking a lot this whole episode, and there's a good reason. It's because it was one of the greatest comebacks that I've seen while covering this Padres team. It felt honestly like the playoff game against the Cardinals a few years back, the Tatis MLB The Show cover, that game, when you had 2 home runs from Tatis and Will Myers. You had a home run from Manny Machado, like just exceptional stuff. That's what this feels like. That's what it felt like, except not all home runs, and it was all everything. Drawing walks, having long at bats, having a closer who just shuts the door immediately and looked great. And again, Suarez, like, he could be legit good. He was throwing gas that first year. There's a reason why they extended him. It's just that he got hurt and was a little bit weird last year. But so far, he's looked pretty sharp. You know, he's had a couple games where he's a little bit weird, but even still, looks pretty good. And for him to shut the door like that, do not forget that. Don't forget that was an important thing. I know Tatis gets all the headlines, but that was big. Wow. And that was a big old chunky boy episode, ladies and gentlemen, especially for one game recap. My God. But we're going to be talking about more stuff, including tonight's game with Joe Musgrove, whether or not he could ball out, and if the Padres can seize and continue the momentum. That remains to be seen, but for now, enjoy the W. It was a blast, and I'm so glad that I was able to be a part of it. You know what I mean? Even just to tweet out Dumb Ninja Turtles tweets about it. You know what I mean? So we'll see how that goes. And again, I had tweeted, like, and I had yesterday's episode, and I also had tweeted, like, wow, the Padres should try hitting with runners in scoring position sometime. They then proceeded to outscore the Cubs by 9 runs. So maybe I should keep complaining, and maybe good things will happen. But with that all being said, everybody, that about does it for today's edition of Locked On Padres Podcast, the only pod that may be better than the Padres themselves. Remember to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. And don't worry, tomorrow's will be hopefully on time. I was just a little bit tired. I didn't have enough time. Will be hopefully in your podcast feed, whatever you want to call it, by the time you wake up and what have you. So look forward to all that, folks. Until next time, stay safe. And of course, stay faithful. My Friar Faithful homies, what a W. Let's go.